Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Hope Family Fellowship. We're glad to be able to come to you this evening, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to sit down with Brother Gossett. And we wanted to discuss a number of things at the church, and rather than just talk it through, we figured we'd sit down and kind of talk through questions and hopefully have some information about what's coming up, where we're going, direction that we can share with you tonight. So thank you for sitting down and being willing to talk through this with me.
Absolutely. This is it's an exciting time because we're beginning to hopefully see the end of where we're at and moving forward, and we've got to put a plan together, and we feel like we've got a good start on that. So excited about being here, and thank you for taking the time as well.
And thank you all for joining in and tuning in. So first question, how are you doing, Brother Gossett? How are you feeling? How are you holding up with everything that's going on?
I've the jokes about 2020. I think every church in the world had a 2020 vision, and I think I saw a thing the other day that said all of those 2020 visions, they were all wrong, every one of them. And so I personally, it's been a difficult time on several fronts. First of all, just like many other people, my entire company moved to work from home. I tried working here from the church for a little while, and that was nice, but it really wasn't tenable. And then they even took further measures, and I was a little bit nervous about going into a public setting, even though it was here at the church. So we just decided to work from my home. I started out working on the kitchen table. I'm now well ensconced in my upstairs bedroom in the corner window, and I know just about everything that's going on in the backyards of all of our neighbors. So, but in the middle of all of this, the working from home, the transition, my father passed away here last month, and of course there was a lot of emotions and things around that. We've been COVID tested twice for 2 different scares. And those of you that know Kipton, he is also at our house right now as well because of a situation where he's at with COVID. So he's here with us for a little while. So I think it's affected all of us. If I get to a point in my life where I never have to hear the word COVID-19 again, I'll be very happy about that. And really just missing the church really, really bad. Ready to be back and ready for things
Absolutely.
To turn to whatever normal is going to be. But let's get back to that and let's try that for a little while.
Yeah, and in case y'all don't catch it, we're up here with the Gossets every week like this, and we're, of course, trying to maintain social distancing and do everything. But when they get tested, we get tested, or at least we're waiting for them to get tested, and we have to figure out when they're exposed, we have to tell everybody, hey, we might have been potentially exposed.
It's cost me a fishing trip. It cost me all kinds of things. So.
Yeah, that wonderful men's fishing trip that only Brother Darrell got to go on.
He caught one fish.
Caught with the one fish, right, So yeah, obviously COVID-19 has upended so much about how we typically live, and I think church is clearly no exception. Things have been so different, and I know going into this, I didn't really expect this to be this long. Right. I knew there'd be disruption, and I guess, when you think about what possibility, it was always a possibility, but you always hope that it's only going to be a month. We're only going to be a month and a half. We'll, quarantine this thing out, and none of us thought it'd be this long. So in light of that, how do you feel like Hope Family is doing?
Yeah, I think that's the first thing. We took a lot of steps at the beginning, but quite frankly, I think we've all been caught off guard by the length of it. When we first started social distancing, I think all of us felt like, hey, this may be just a few weeks, maybe a month and a half, and it was in the middle of March, and we're thinking, okay, May. We'll be back, and and we were trying to figure out. Seems foolish now, but we were trying to figure out, hey, are we going to get back in time to have Mother's Day? And then it became apparent, and then
Easter,
and and all of the things that just kind of began the dates that began to fall off. We were pretty convinced that Easter was going to be a casualty pretty early on, but we were hopeful maybe Mother's Day can kind of be our regathering. And we did a bunch of things at the beginning, but they were meant to be short-term solutions for what we thought was a short-term problem. And as about the time we really realized how long this was going to be, was when my dad passed away. So that just really kind of put a kink in everything. And for that, I don't know if apologize is the right thing. I regret that the timing of it, but the Lord didn't really, or nobody else really asked me. And so that being said, as it's stretched now into July, we're headed toward August now. It became apparent, okay, we've got to take some more serious steps, and we're just going to have to, we're going to move toward reopening. We're going to do some things to reopen, but we've got to maintain contingency plans in case we don't. And so that's really what I'm really looking forward to discussing some tonight. So,
Well, and you've said it a number of times, but are we worried at all about keeping the lights on, finances, things like that?
No, thank you all that have been so kind and gracious to give. Financially, we are very, very solid. Frankly, we could go for quite a long time with no offerings at all, but obviously tithing and those kind of things are important, and they continue to be important, but we really limited our bills. We've really stripped down to all the just things that are just absolutely necessary. So we're really just paying for insurance on the building itself, lights, a few other things that we have to, the internet and all those kind of things here at the building. But we've really kept our expenses to a minimum, and because of that, we're actually, frankly, better shape now financially than we were the day we closed the doors. So thank you all. That you guys are the reason for that. So.
And you've mentioned in our services a couple times investing in kind of regaining momentum once we're able to gather back together, and particularly that's some of what we're saving towards. Yeah. So do we have any specific plans, or how do we do that kind of reinvestment in?
Sure. Yeah, those are real good questions. And, part of it, the big part of it is kind of how we phase back in, and we can talk about that here in just a minute. But, as we're beginning to open the church back up, we're going to start with a single service on Sunday. Parents, we are going to have Sunday school. We're going to have socially distanced Sunday school. We'll seat the kids around the outside of the room so that they can stay away from each other. But if your children are here, we feel like they need to reconnect with their friends, and we need to provide some services for them, and some opportunities for them to learn. So they will be in the back while everybody else is up front, and we may be few in number to begin, but we're just going to start with the Sunday morning service at 10:45. And then we're going to continue to monitor the progress with the goal, as soon as we feel like it's getting more and more safe to do so, that we'll move back to our regular schedule of Sunday school at 10 and service at 10:45. But as we kind of progress into that, but as far as reopening, or what are our initial plans? Just hearing from many of you, the texts, the phone calls, the things that I see, I think we have, frankly, before we can go grow, a plant really can't grow until it heals, and I suspect, our first order of business is really just going to be to regather, began to give the Lord an opportunity to heal. People they're lonely. That's probably the resounding thing I hear. I'm lonely. Social distance and socially distancing is a hard concept, and it's taken an emotional toll on people. That's probably the thing I hear more and more and more is I miss church. I miss my church. I miss what are they missing? Well, of course, they're missing the Spirit of God. They're hopefully missing the preach word that you and I do, and Sister Sarah and all the singers, the music and all those things. But they miss each other too. and we just haven't had the chance to fellowship. And and there's healing. A friend sticks closer than a brother, and I think everybody misses their brothers and their sisters in the Lord. And I just think we're going to have not a huge long time, but a month to 2 months of just letting the Lord kind of minister to everybody, and let's make us whole again. And then when we move past that, then we'll begin to look at some evangelism opportunities and how we do that.
Well, that sounds great, and I'm hopeful that we can reopen in the beginning of next month. But what does this look like if everything just continues the way it has been?
Yeah. Well, Wednesday nights, we're looking to establish some discipleship type classes on Wednesday night that we can that have the ability, and you'll be hearing more about this. Sister Sarah's done a lot of work on this. I believe you've been involved, but it's a set of materials where we'll be able to give workbooks to the people at home, so that as we're teaching, they can follow along in their books. There's some exercises they can do. If we're able to come back here, we'll do it here as well as online. We're going to continue to do online services, even once we, until we're fully done with the socially distancing. We're going to do online services. So we're going to make those packets available. You'll know which lesson we're in, and we're hopeful that maybe we start it online and we finish it together
in person. Right.
In person. It's about, I believe, 12 weeks, something along those lines. So, it would give us an opportunity. And then, guys, this is going to sound strange, but I think the thing that I'm just thinking about is I just want to be able to have a normal Christmas banquet at this point. That's about that would be awesome.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. But I just think we've got to regather. We got to heal, and then we'll move into a phase. It'll almost be like being a home missions church fully again, because we're going to have to relaunch. We're going to have to make the community aware that we're here and begin to reach out in those areas. But first, we got to get healed, and that's where I want to start.
And I think you've already started to touch on this, but assuming we do get past all of the social distancing, all of the requirements, and we do settle into some new normal, because no doubt it's not going to be the same normal. We're going to have a new normal. But what's your vision for Hope Family moving forward in kind of the more mid-long term?
Yeah. So, this is always, we've always positioned and put ourselves as a place for hope for the families. We've for whatever reason, we've always had an attraction to, our large families have been attracted to us, families with, 3, 4, 5 children oftentimes. And that's really where we're at. We're a Hope Family Fellowship, And so from a long-term standpoint, when we started 2020, we had a host of plans around events that had been planned out, which have basically all just been canceled. We spent one January evening. We planned out basically the whole entire year, and the Lord apparently said, no, that's not going to be
2020
it.
vision.
2020 vision. And so all of those events, the men's fishing trips, the ladies shopping trips, those kind of things all got canceled. So a big part of it is, once we were like, okay, we're back, it's normal, we're going to sit back down, pull that calendar up, and roll back through the year and say, okay, let's get these events back on the calendar, and use those events again. We had a great men's fellowship just prior to all of this taking place, and felt really good about where our men's group was headed. But all of this has kind of just slowed everything down, and so it's going to be to begin to relaunch those men's ministries, those women's ministries. We didn't get to have Vacation Bible School this year. Began to plan for that, beginning to take those steps as well. Good news is we've got all the material bought, or just about. So, VBS is literally, we've got most of it good to go. And so I'm hoping if it was good enough for 2020, it'll be fine for 2021.
It'll be fine for 2021 as well, huh?
Yes.
Just put everything on pause and pick it up again the next year.
Yes.
Well, you mentioned, the initiatives we had. There are a couple big initiatives we had at the beginning of the year. We talked about getting a van and starting some sort of van ministry or bus ministry, and we had this building opportunity. We'd planned to save for a building either way.
Right.
Then we had this opportunity that came up, and what happened to all those plans and initiatives?
The van, the money for the van, frankly, is set aside. It's ready to go, and we just didn't think, once it became apparent that we weren't going to be able to, to move forward with everything right now. We didn't know and begin to say, well, wow, this is going to be longer. Just didn't think it was prudent to go buy a van, pay a note on it, or pay, even if, we'll probably just buy the thing and not even have a note on it, but, and then just set it out in the parking lot, then somebody has to make sure that it's taken care of and nobody vandalizes it or anything else, because it's just going to be sitting there. There's no real way to use it. So we just said, we're going to wait till this opens back up, and then we're going to go buy the van. That one was pretty easy. The building that we were looking at, we just could not come to an agreement where we felt like we were comfortable with the amount of money that we were putting out based upon, the amount of tithes and offerings. And looking back, I'm pretty grateful we didn't. Because we'd have had that financial burden as we're really, going through this whole time, and we're doing fine financially. But we've continued to set money aside. That's what some of the offerings and those kind of things are done. We've got money set aside, and we're looking. We're very actively looking for land or a building or just the right opportunity, and that's still there. But it's just nothing else has really come to the forefront since.
So we're still kind of back in that. Let's put aside the down payment or just the finances to get set up for when we do have the opportunity.
Correct. And we've got the building here. We were beginning to strain it a little bit. We'll need to see. Where are we when we get back together? Is it as pressing an issue? I think it will be very shortly. But is it a pressing issue, or is it? Can we wait a little longer? And I feel like the more time we have, the more likely it is that we run into something that's like, hey, this is a can't miss. Let's do this kind of deal. And that just hasn't popped up yet. But we continue to look, and the grim reality of this is we're going to make it. This church we're going to make it. We're going to be here when this is all done. There's likely to be some churches in this community that are not. They just couldn't weather through this, and that's unfortunate. But there may be an opportunity there for us, to find a spot that could be Hope Family's more long-term home.
Well, let's talk about what it looks like when we do get back together.
Okay.
What are we going to do when we get back? If we are able to open the church back up in August, what's that going to look like?
Yeah. So I referenced it a little bit earlier, but we're going to do all of the things that the governor is asking us to do. I don't want to have a discussion around mask or no mask or any of those things here tonight. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I think as a church we need to be socially responsible and do our best to follow the mandates, the guidelines that we're being asked to follow. So when you come back together, we will have the chairs set 6 feet apart from a row standpoint. We're going to ask family units to stay together, not commingle. That's going to be hard with the children because they're going to want to go hang out with their friends, and we're going to ask them, if they're in the front of the sanctuary, to stay with their family. But we are going to provide Sunday schools. But again, it'll be socially distanced Sunday school. We normally have provided snacks and those kind of things. We probably won't do that, just to limit the liability risk. And when you come into the door, there will be somebody there to greet you and to take your temperature to make sure. We don't want to get here and be that church on the news where somebody got sick.
That's not all good. Not all publicity is good publicity.
Not all
We're
good
trying to avoid some of it.
Yes, that's a little bit of the publicity that we would
don't
like to avoid. Yes.
Well, what do we do if someone doesn't feel comfortable coming back to service yet? are there some ways they can stay engaged? You know, we
Yes.
have our Sunday services online, but how can we, as you mentioned earlier, we had some initial short-term
Right.
solutions for kind of maintaining that community. But wasn't really planned for. So what's our plan going forward
Sure.
for the people who can't come back together, don't feel
come back to
comfortable?
church. Yeah, so we're anticipating that group, and we understand. You know, that's the first thing I want to be clear on. You know, is we understand if you're uncomfortable coming into the setting until all of this is totally passed. I know we have some folks who's have health issues that it would not be a good thing for them to come down with it. So. You know, we're going to be respectful of that, understanding of that. So we're going to continue to broadcast the Sunday morning services with those things, and we're going to look to launch, regardless if we come back or not. We're going to look to launch the Elements program that I talked about a little bit earlier, the discipleship program, which will give you a way to interact with the material that's being taught, and we're reviewing ways that we could see if we can make that even an interactive, I'm hesitating to use the word Zoom, but some sort of interactive video where folks would have the opportunity to ask questions.
Like
and
more of a real time.
More of a real time, regardless of whether they're in the building or whether they're, still at home. And those kind of things we're looking to do with that. And, and if folks say, hey, I don't want to be in a crowd, but, I'd be happy to sit out with you on my porch, socially distant apart and just have a conversation. We want to make sure that we have a chance to go and fellowship with folks and just spend some face-to-face time, 6 feet face-to-face time away with them. So,
and specifically that kind of following on that, what other things that we as the church members can do? You've mentioned how the church is going to be trying to reach out, find some
Absolutely.
creative ways to allow us to reconnect, if not in person. But what can we do to help reach our communities and our families, our neighbors?
Yeah, one of the things I'm, from reaching out to each other, one of the things I've been very thankful for, the ladies have been fairly active in, I believe it's called Marco Polo, and they have these short video clips that they send to each other to kind of just check in for the day. That's helped us. That's allowed us to maintain some connection between the ladies and the families because of that. It's hard to imagine a men's group doing that. That just doesn't.
You don't think that we'd be regularly Marcoing each other during the day?
I don't know. It's just hard to imagine. I'm out here on. I think I'm pouring some concrete or something. I don't know. I'm doing something. Never mind. I don't know. I don't know what we do, but I'm grateful for it. But one of the things, it seems simple enough. I've when I teach basic, like if you want basic discipleship, I really believe it comes down to 2 things. You pray every day and you read your Bible every day and let God work on you. I know there's a lot of other stuff you can add into that, but if you leave out those 2, none of the rest of the stuff works. And so from a fellowship standpoint, reaching out to each other, there's just really no substitute for it. That can be a short text message to a friend. That can be a quick phone call. That can be a letter in the mail, whatever suits you. But I do think, that would be an interesting thing. We've explored the ideas of having the children do maybe like a Zoom scavenger hunt where they're asked to find things within their own homes, and the first one that comes back with the items, some of those things. We have some of our families who are healthcare workers, and so they may not be here for a while, until this is passed, and they have children, so we want to accommodate those. I would expect another round of gifts fairly soon, just because that seemed to be well received. And we still have all the men's gifts from Father's Day. We've been waiting. We thought the men would show up
They'll
one
be
day.
back soon.
Yeah, and here we are in the middle of July, headed toward August.
So Father's Day has been officially rescheduled for September or something. Right?
Yeah, we'll do Mother's Day, Father's Day. We'll do Everybody Day. It's Everybody Day.
COVID replacement day.
It's Grandma Day, Mama Day, Daddy Day, Kids Day, Brother, Sister Day, whatever. We'll just do them all. And we'll probably call it Christmas. I don't know. So.
Well, I know we've covered a number of things this evening and talked specifically about some of our initiatives going forward. But if people have ideas or further questions, if there's questions that you want to ask that weren't asked tonight or thoughts you have, what's the best way to reach out to you and get in contact to ask those questions?
Yeah, good question. The best way to reach me is always my cell phone. And let me just be clear on the number. It's 936-635-6136. I oftentimes don't answer it. I usually don't answer it if I don't recognize the number. Many of you I have in my phone, and I would know it was you. And I work at a job. Sometimes I just simply can't answer the phone when somebody calls. But a text message is probably the most convenient way just to say, hey, and you don't have to convey the idea that way, but hey, Pastor, I'd like to talk to you about something. I'd like to get something in your hands. I'd like to get you something. That's probably the best way to initiate it is with just a simple text message to 936-635-6136.
Well, thank you. And that's all the questions I have for you tonight. So we might have to do another one of these if we have questions. If there are things that you're interested in hearing the plans of the church or just the direction of the church, please reach out, get in contact with us. Do you have anything you wanted to close with?
Yeah, that's what I want to say. I'm asking if you're comfortable doing so. You're reasonably doing so. We've got one more Sunday. We're going to be online only, and then in just over just a week and a half, we are going to open the doors. We'd love to see you. Please bring your mask. That is something I didn't say when we were talking about this earlier. Please bring your mask. We're going to ask you that you wear your mask while you're moving in and around the building. If you're sitting at your seat, we'll obviously if you feel like taking your mask off there and you're just going to be right around your family, that'll be fine. We probably won't be doing any laying on of hands real quickly. It may be just a little while before we do that. But, just come back. And if you want, if you have some questions, we'll spend a follow-up session next week in this format. If we don't, we'll probably be in this format. We may discuss something else. But, if you've got follow-up questions about the church or what we're doing or why we're doing it or when we're doing it, reach out to me personally, but also supply those here, because if I didn't convey it here and you didn't catch it, then probably somebody else didn't catch it either. So we'll have a follow-up this time next week. So.
And would Facebook comments, can we take questions that way?
Absolutely. Facebook
YouTube comments?
Yeah,
this video or anything else?
Yeah, just as long as you don't say we look funny, anything like that.
Probably do.
We'll be good. So,
all right. Well, thank you so much for joining
in. Thank you, guys.
We look forward to your feedback and look forward to seeing you all again soon.